This program is recorded live and may feature unexpected moments, sightings, or conversations.
Ugliest giraffe I've ever seen.
Viewer discretion is advised.
Now.
My name is Alex, and my job is to explore the world around me and take you along for the ride.
That's why they call it the jungle, sweetheart.
I've guided a lot of adventures and have come to realize that our planet needs us now more than it ever has before.
If you don't believe in climate change,
I've learned it's only going to be through working together that we can restore biodiversity on our planet. Join myself and my friends as we bring you into the tent of conservation and the realm of the wild itself.
What the hell is happening?
And along the way, we'll be exploring wild things.
You want to talk about sustainable seafood? Do I ever?
In wild places.
See, there's a tent. There's a tour there.
you guys, it's summertime or springtime or whatever. It's the time of year where you can see what the hell is back there. Welcome to another high-octane episode of Misguided. As usual, I'm your host, Alex. We've got Jeff just off camera, and I'm thrilled to bits. That's better. That it's, hold on, Mr. Rogers, springtime. Excellent, everybody. Welcome back to another excellent show. We've got a great guest for you tonight. We've got David Brown, biologist extraordinaire, who's here to talk to us about giraffes and his latest project, Mongabay Kids, which we've hit up a little bit on the show before, and we'll talk to you again in the headlines tonight. We'll talk to you, of course, with David about that. Let me first make sure the audio, yes, is working. Perfect. Well done, Jeff.
Gotcha.
How's it been, everybody? It's been 2 weeks since we've done a sit-down, excellent show like this. By the way, are we recording?
I hope so. Yes, we are.
It's always these little details that you've come to learn and love here at the Misguided Show. Where was I? Well, I hope you guys have been well. Last week we did a little bit different episode. We were out in the bush, walking around with Rachel, and that was really an experiment to try to figure out when we pack up this kit and take it on the road to Africa, you know, like the Barnum and Bailey circus that we are we going to be able to live stream mobile while we're out on foot, on drives, et cetera, et cetera? And I think so far the answer is mostly yes. But if you were watching the show last week, you probably noticed we had a little bit of technical issue where the image was going fuzzy, and that's probably due to bandwidth, which we'll figure out. It's going to be great. Don't worry about it. It's our problem, not yours. How have you been, Jeff?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm sorry I missed last week, but I'm here. I'm excited.
Were you're a Russian spy on the side, right? That's what you were doing.
We're keeping that on down. That's
Too much?
Yeah.
Too much?
Yeah. Well,
Just checking my audio again.
I'm on the mammals thing on my phone. No comments yet.
Well, if you're out there, say hello. It's a lot more fun when people join us on the stream. We're going to have David with us live on the program tonight, so you'll be able to ask him questions just like you might interact with Jeff or I here on the show. He'll be coming up with us at about 7:30, 7:40ish. I'm just watching the clock here off to the side. I don't know, Jeff, do you have any thoughts about wildlife conservation? Tell the people what you've been up to. They haven't seen you in 2 weeks.
Nothing too exciting, to be honest with you. Work. But
Work. Do we have to pay copyrights for that now?
Trying to keep updated with what's going on, but most of that is through you. And
Through
what
me?
you bring to the show.
Well, hey, I
It's so good.
make a lot of stuff up.
I applaud you. You're so good.
Now, you and I are no strangers to giraffes. Jeff and I both spent the good part of the last 5 years around live giraffes every single day.
Yeah.
And I would say that they're, by and large, kind of the original hippie, wouldn't you?
Yes.
Do you want me to elaborate?
100%.
Or do you want to tell the people?
They're so just loosey-goosey, like, whatever, man, I'm going to go this way and eat some leaves. And
co-parenting is normal, right?
Yeah.
You have big groups of ladies that all interact together, and they have their offspring together, and they move around, bless you, together. And, parenting strategy is kind of like your kid wants to wander off over there and eat some grass, and the other kids want to go over there and eat some grass, whatever, man. You do you, right? Giraffes are very social, very loose, lots of grass is involved in their life. No one's ever laughed at that joke.
What? How?
Ever.
That's so good, though. How have I not thought of that joke?
And co-parenting is normal because, if you and the ladies are standing around, one might notice, oh, the kids are getting kind of far, let me wander off. And the other moms are like, cool beans, man, we're going to eat some more grass. Maybe not the best parenting strategy because they often forget their kids, and there's a 50% mortality rate among baby giraffes. But that's fine. Don't worry about it. Looks like we've got Rachel on the stream with us, which is fun because Rachel's standing right there.
Rachel!
She'll be on the show again tonight with us. We've got another segment of Rachel's Sweet Treats coming up here in about 20 minutes or so. Again, if you're out there in the netherworlds, please let us know you're there. It's a lot more fun to interact with you than it is to blindly talk to a phone in the woods like I am right now. Although I do have Jeff and Rachel to poke fun at if I feel the need to.
Yeah, you got the easy target right here.
Easy, big, soft target. Please, at any point, feel free to stop us, get us to pause, ask questions, comments. This is your show just as much as it is our show. So get in there, get messy, make mistakes, like Miss Frizzle would say. Jeff, could you take us to the headlines?
I sure can. Let's do it.
Let's air kick, do it.
Headlines. What do you got for us this evening? I'm excited.
Well, not a whole lot going on. I'll admit, I was reading over the headlines to try to figure out some good stuff to put on the show tonight. And there's a lot of just heavy Debbie Downer stuff going on in the world right now. And I thought, rather than bum the people out, let's look for something a little bit more uplifting if we can, while still trying to bum them out.
I think we have one slight hiccup here because on your camera, it's just Rachel sitting there. So I don't know what you have plugged in on your little window at the top right. It's just...
Wait.
Which is great. I love Rachel. But it's not your face.
It's not my face. Is it a live picture of Rachel?
No, it's just a set, photo.
Oh, man. Let me see if I can figure that out.
Here, let's do... Hang on.
Oh, I'll just drag this guy over.
Hilarious.
Oh, that's excellent.
Isn't that good?
I don't know why it's... Oh, I know why it's doing that. Let's leave it, actually.
Let's leave it?
We have two options here. A, we can leave it the way it is, because that's hilarious. This was earlier when we were testing the show. You know what's happened here, right?
I have no idea.
The camera has frozen.
Oh, yeah.
So to correct that, we have to just click on the camera setting there. It should be called iOS 2, and then you hit its properties, and you just hit refresh. But if that's too fast-paced for live TV...
That was a lot, man. I see iOS camera. I can get rid of it.
Don't get rid of it.
And it'll just have that little border there.
Don't get rid. I think Rachel's actually a lot funnier. Let's just leave it. That's great. That's hilarious.
Always something. It's misguided.
It's misguided. Don't worry about it. Pull up the sailboat thing if you could, please.
Sure. Sailboats. Who doesn't like a good sailboat?
Who doesn't like a good sailboat with a giant CMA CGM? I have not been sailing. Have you?
I have. Yeah.
How's it like? Tell us of the sailing.
It's great. It's been many a year. Since I've been sailing.
Now, were you last sailing with pirates or?
Well, yeah, in a way.
Yeah.
It was a friend, but basically a pirate.
Okay.
It's just so I was also on a lake. I wasn't on the ocean, but
I hope they're a little bit different.
It's still sailing, and it's just so nice. It's so calm and fun, and I want to do it again.
Sure. And at what point do you feel like singing sea shanties?
Immediately.
Immediately?
As soon as you get your first your little big toe or something.
The Weller Man starts playing in your head?
Immediately. Yeah.
That's what all the TikTok kids are saying right now.
Is that what they're saying?
Let me double check the audio's actually running.
Let's see. You should be running. Yeah.
Oh, we're good. We're good.
I can hear you. You're good.
Come on, do it.
The audio works.
Now the audience is like, we're just milking this out for as long as we can.
Sailboats.
Now, sailboats are in the news. Boy, now I'm actually curious though. Come on. Do the thing, technology. Boy, we're just nailing it tonight. This has been 2.5 seasons, and we're basically operating like it's our first episode.
It's fine.
I have not been sailing on a sailboat. I admittedly don't know why.
Highly recommend.
I've been on boats. I've been on cruise ships. You know, I've been out to sea.
You've been out to sea.
Just not like a pirate would.
Yeah, well, that's okay.
Oh, come on, you.
I don't even know what you're testing anymore.
Do it. Oh, there it goes. Perfect.
Hey, Rob's here.
Hey, Rob, how you doing? Sorry, we're just double checking an
He
audio.
wants you to sing a sea shanty.
Sing a sea shanty.
Yes.
With this rich baritone bass, I probably could get away with it. I don't know any sea shanties off the top of my head.
Come on. Think about it.
I'll learn one for you. And
We'll get back to
hold on. So the Wellerman is quite popular right now, but I don't know any.
Tail?
Whale. Oh, got a whale of a tale to tell you, lad. Whale of a tale or two about the flapping fish and the girls I've loved on nights like this with the moon above. It's all true, I tell you, lad. I swear by my tattoo.
Yeah.
What is that? What is that from? It's an old Disney movie.
What is it? Is it 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea?
That might be it.
Is it?
No, it's not it at all.
I don't know why that was the first thing that came to
We're
mind.
way off topic. New Age of Sail looks to slash massive maritime carbon emissions. This is actually kind of cool. If ocean shipping were a country, get this, it would be the 6th largest carbon emitter, releasing more CO2 annually than Germany. That blew my mind when I was reading these earlier.
That's insane.
More CO2 than Germany. Holy cow. According to the latest UN International Maritime Organization reports. But change is on the way. Wind, solar electric, and hydrogen-powered ships offer innovative low or no carbon alternatives to fossil fuel-powered cargo vessels, with wind about to make a huge comeback in shipping. So this is kind of cool because do you know the last golden age of wind sailing? Anybody out there? Jeff? The insects flying around?
Don't ask me. I don't know anything.
1940s. It wasn't that long ago.
Really?
The 1940s, there were still large ocean-going sea ships that were sail-powered, carrying cargo.
Interesting.
Right? Who would have guessed? Not me. And here it is, the 2020s, and this article is projecting that by the 2030s, or potentially 2040s, we'll start to see large ocean-going ships that are sail-powered and electric-powered. So they have electric motors to power when there's no wind, starting to replace fossil fuel-burning cargo ships. That's pretty wild. So basically, a 100-year cycle, we're going to see it turn around on its head again and back to where we were. And that's kind of cool because if you think about it, we're doing that in a lot of different ways. If you look at the last 60, 70, 80 years, we made all these massive innovations and then realized they're not sustainable and are going back in time a bit, like food, right? Now, Rachel will be on the program later talking about food and sustainability. The idea of organic food would have driven our great-grandparents nuts because that was just food. That's just what you ate. And they were a little bit smarter about it. I was just pulling through here. Fossil fuel-powered cargo vessels may give way to high and slow-tech, they're calling it, slow-tech sailing ships, thanks to a revolution in energy technology that reduces shipping costs with less emissions. So what a world to see flip on its head like that. Let's see where we're at in the comments here. I hope that sea shanty amused you, Rob. That was just for you. I don't know any real ones, but I know that. What did you think what Disney movie that was from?
The only other thing I can think of would be like Treasure Island, but
No, I don't think it's
not
Treasure
that.
Island.
I'll have to Google
I think
it.
Brian's
Someone
with us
Google
on the
it, let us know
stream.
in the comments.
It looks like Brian's with us. Do you know the Whale of a Tale song, Brian? What movie is that from? Rachel, do you know?
I'm a little disappointed I don't
It's
know.
going to bother me the whole show now.
Jiminy Cricket sings.
No.
No?
It's
No,
No, he doesn't.
no.
Seems like
that one actor whose name I can't remember.
Okay, well, let's
Don't ask me to remember actor's name.
I looked
Anyway,
it up.
moving on.
Moving on.
I think next we have gorillas. Gorillas. Now this is cool. Unless you were living under a rock for the last 2 months, we all know about the Reddit freak out where the GameStop guys showed up and kind of took over Wall Street and said to Wall Street, hey, we run this now. To stay with the seagoing stuff, I'm the captain now. And they made a killing in profits all through Reddit and stock trading. And get this, the guys that did that, by and large, a big chunk of them, have taken their winnings from Wall Street and they're using it to fund conservation around the world, with gorilla conservation in particular being the biggest, most popular area for them to be donating to, which is really, really cool. And I think shows a lot about humanity. It's why I'm not really too pessimistic about the state of our world, is because normal, average, everyday people will consistently make good choices when given the opportunity. And I think the larger forces at be sometimes do, but often don't, because greed kind of probably takes over your mind at a certain point. So I was so thrilled to see that the guys of Reddit were using their awesome found success to fund conservation, and in particular gorillas who really need the support. Let's see where we're at. Brian says, oh, you guys are right, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
Nailed it.
I was just writing it down.
What actor was that, though?
Kurt Douglas.
Kurt Douglas. Dang it, I couldn't remember that. He was wearing a great shirt and faking the guitar through that whole segment. So the gorillas, that's a positive headline. I told you I want to try to keep this a little bit more
Amazed
positive.
by that.
Moving on.
Oh, we're moving on.
Moving
Okay, I'm
on.
still
We got to
like on
keep
the
this show
gorilla
on the
thing,
road,
which is
man.
so good. All right.
We've got giraffes to cover tonight.
We do.
Help me out here. Are we at
First,
albatross?
We're on the albatross.
The albatross. This is kind of cool. I didn't realize that the oldest living bird in the world was an albatross named Wisdom. Jeff, off the top of your head, how long do albatross live for?
Oh, God. I'm not the expert on albatross.
You're not?
I know, it's weird.
That's misguided.
I wouldn't have guessed that long for an albatross. For a bird that size, I probably would have guessed like 50-ish, maybe.
You're closer to it, because the normal lifespan for an albatross is about 20 to 40 years.
Okay, there you go.
Somewhere in there. Now,
She's
Wisdom,
70?
she's 70. She's
Holy crap.
ancient. She's like that little old man from Star Wars.
Little old
Yoda?
man.
Wisdom was first documented by biologists in 1956.
Wow.
They found her in the Pacific, and they've been keeping track of her nearly every year since. And they just this past February recorded that Wisdom had another chick. Her latest chick was born on February 1st. Mother and chick are doing quite well. But how amazing that the world's oldest living bird, or known bird, is still raising offspring from shells.
Pretty impressive.
And cute, although she kind of looks over it, to be honest.
Yes. Sorry, I'm getting everything else ready.
You're good. Now, final headline for you guys. I just wanted to plug again, because we're going to be talking about it a little bit more tonight. If you could bring that up. We've got Mongabay Kids, and we have the creator of Mongabay Kids, David Brown, on the program tonight. I'm just remembering they can't actually see me, so they're just seeing Rachel in the corner.
No.
What?
But they can see me.
No,
and I'm reacting
you from earlier.
to whatever you're saying.
Mongabay Kids, I think is going to be a great addition to the Mongabay website. If you're not familiar, check it out, mongabay.com. The Mongabay Newscast is where you can go for conservation. It's typically where we get all of our conservation headlines anyway.
Yeah.
But they've just revamped their kids wing, which used to be kind of a flimsy, patched together site, and now it's this refreshed new site with a wonderful set of characters led by Doug Beetle, which would be like the Mickey Mouse for Jeff of the gang. And I can't wait to hear more about it from the creator, David Brown, here in about 10 or 15 minutes. Yes. First, though, I think, why don't we take us away to a brief break. Don't go away. We're just going to restage. We get Rachel on the show. I understand tonight she's made monkey bread.
Yes.
Audio too? Excellent, excellent. How you doing, Rachel?
I'm doing good. How about you, Alex?
It's been all of 2 minutes since I last saw
I
you.
know. It's been so long. I missed you so much.
I missed you so much. Is this the part where we're just mushy-gushy with each other? For all of you at home.
Gross.
So you made monkey bread tonight.
I did.
Why did you make monkey bread?
Well, because I couldn't find anything that related to giraffes, so the closest thing that I could find were monkeys.
My idea of like a baked salad wasn't cutting it.
I mean, it sounded great, but
Uh,
I mean, I could have baked a loaf of bread to put the salad in.
Now, I was kind of surprised to find the history of monkey bread with you,
too.
because we did a little dive into what this is. But first, walk us through, what is monkey bread? What are the ingredients? How did you make it? Is it hard? Is it easy? When is it served? What does it pair well with? What should I wear while eating it?
You should wear a tux while eating this bow
yes.
tie, black tie attire.
Black tie? Okay.
Yeah,
Like fancy, like Mr. Peanut?
that's classy.
That's classy.
Very simple recipe. Anybody could do it. I mean, I could have done this a little more complicated, but I didn't have enough time today. But it starts with biscuit. So if you really want to feel fancy, you can make your own biscuit dough. But they prefer like a buttermilk biscuit dough. You cut up, if you buy the pre-made biscuits, I try to buy the better ones, but like ones with buttermilk. You cut it up into a quarter, you stick it into a bundt pan, you cover all the little biscuit dough with sugar.
What is a bundt pan?
A bundt pan. It's like a circular pan with indents in it. It looks like a bundt. No.
It looks like a bundt. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, it's just a pan.
It's a pan.
But you put cinnamon and white sugar on the biscuit dough. And then you put the biscuit pieces in the bundt pan. And then you get some brown sugar and some butter. You're cooking on the stove. Pour it over and then put it in the oven. Although I would recommend one thing. I didn't put any like non-stick oil or butter or anything on the pan because they said don't.
And
But it made a mess. So
Okay.
I would.
You heard it here first. Use non-stick when you're making this, or butter.
Butter, maybe some butter on the pan to help
Okay.
it not stick because it is sticky.
And the history of this stuff was kind of wild, to be
It
honest.
was.
So this is a Jewish Hungarian dish,
It is.
which you would never guess because it's called monkey bread.
Yeah. Well,
But-
they call it pull-apart bread.
Pull-apart bread, exactly. And I can't remember the Hungarian name for it, but it means pull-apart bread.
Yeah.
But it has Jewish origins, really. And this was brought to the United States in the 1880s
Yeah.
by immigrants from Hungary, largely, which was really weird. Hungary, specifically.
Yeah.
Right now, that's next to what? Transylvania?
Yeah. So, and then, yeah, I guess it was like made popular by the Reagans because they had it for Christmas.
Again, the story takes a complete right turn.
But then a weird thing when he was having some like issues, and I guess with like something that had to do with Iran. I've already forgotten.
Yeah, it was a conference or a negotiation he was going to go into.
Yeah, I guess the night before he had some monkey bread, and I guess the quote was that he said, "Mommy, I might be going to jail, but I don't know why."
But I'll always
But
remember
I'll
that.
always remember this monkey bread. I just thought it was a random mistake.
Now, can you say that in a Reagan accent for us?
I don't even know how to start.
Do you think he had jelly beans shoved into it?
Probably.
I feel like that.
I would say probably in between each little monkey.
Between
knuckle.
each monkey. No, it got the nickname monkey bread because, again, this comes with Jewish immigrants and then is sold at Jewish delis in New York City and et cetera.
Yeah.
And when people bought it, they thought it was fun because you have to pick
Pull it
at
apart.
it and pull it apart. And the action reminded people of watching monkeys. And my only thought is their only impression of monkey had to have been the zoo. But whatever.
Yeah. It's an interesting comparison.
And this is basically it's pure sugar. Yeah. It's
How
good.
could that be bad?
Typically served at breakfast, right? You have some of this with coffee. It's good. And what's in this again? You've got brown sugar.
Brown sugar, white sugar, cinnamon, biscuits, and butter.
And butter. So all the things that the doctor wants you to stay away from for your
Exactly.
heart go into this.
I mean,
This is
why
fantastic.
not? It is.
No, really. I mean,
It's good.
I can see the implications for this being even like a farm food. You know, it's warm, it's comforting, it's full of sugar, gets you up, perk you up, gets you going.
Yeah, and it's filling.
It's
bread.
filling, it's dense,
You know, it's
yeah.
dense. Yeah.
But
Exactly.
excuse me for eating with my mouth open. Probably a seasonal kind of holiday type thing, and it's coming up on Passover. Not that I'm Jewish, but that's I think next Saturday. Yeah, next Saturday
so,
Passover
yeah.
starts. So I don't know if this is at all associated with Passover, but it's got origins in the Jewish Hungarian historical realm.
Yeah,
Pretty cool.
it is. It's interesting to find the history of these desserts along with making them.
I think so. Yeah.
Makes them a little more interesting, you know.
We're learning more about the sustainability of making
Yeah,
things.
I mean, like with this, I bought more sustainable like sugars and stuff for this, and I mean with the butter, I should have bought like probably more local butter, but this time I went with Kerrygold because
It's
it's
St.
just
Patrick's Day. Go
it
with
was
it.
close. Exactly, to St. Patrick's Day. But yeah, you can, like I said, make your own biscuit dough. I didn't have enough time, but you definitely can, and that makes it a bit more sustainable too.
Sure,
if you
sure.
buy more locally ground flours and salt, buttermilk. You can get local buttermilk, basically.
Well, this is good. I highly recommend this. Unlike the milk tart, I thought this was fantastic.
You'll never let me live down that milk tart.
Everybody else liked it. It's okay.
Yeah, it wasn't that great, but that's okay.
If you want the recipe for this or to learn more about it, hit us up, shoot us a message. Happy to chat. In fact, we should do like a live stream cooking segment with you
Yeah.
where we're making this.
Definitely.
Looks like Rob says that looks delightful. It is absolutely delightful. I wish you guys could try one through the screen.
They're good.
That's the next innovation in live streams. Smell-o-vision, like Wonka, right? That was a Wonka thing. And taste vision.
Taste of vision.
Like Wonka, just reach through the lens and grab it, guys. All right. Well, when we come back, we're going to have David Brown with us, a biologist, conservationist, and most recent project, Mongabay Kids, launching that, constructing that. So we'll have a delightful chat. It's going to be live. We'll have him on a Google Meets with us. So at home, you guys will be able to ask David questions as well. He won't be able to see your comments, so I have him right here. I'll be able to watch and feed him your questions. But let's chat with a biologist here in a few minutes. In the meantime, we're going to send you off to our musical moment of the week. Buckle up, get comfy for a second, because we're going to do some close-up of eyeballs.
Can you guys hear me okay on this end? Jeff, can you hear me?
Coming up, it looks like.
Spiking? All right, cool. We've got a real treat for you guys tonight. We've got David Brown on the program with us. And if at any point the audio gets weird, or excuse me as I drop my mic here, audio gets weird or we have some technical difficulties, let us know. Drop us a comment. We can still see those, of course. But Jeff, if you would pull us over, are we on our split screen?
Yes, we are.
All right, there we go. Put these both in. I think I should get in there.
Because I show you a spiking. I have to lower down.
Audio check here. Check.
But on your end, it looks good.
Let me see. Just check it here. So far, actually, I don't know.
Yeah.
We're good?
I can hear you.
Whoa, that's super loud.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. Well, we're rocking and rolling. David, can you hear me?
I can hear you great, Alex.
Awesome. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing great too. Welcome to the show. So glad you could be on with us.
Thank you for having me, and hello to all the mammals out there and all the other taxes as well.
We've got a few people in chat with us right now. I'm hoping as we go here, more will jump on or ask questions, or we'll just the night takes us. But we've got your bio underneath of us right now, so people can see a little bit more about you. But tell the people who you are and the work you've done with giraffes, and how you got where you are.
Sure. Hi, I'm a biologist by training. I did my undergraduate degree in zoology, and then I did graduate work in ecology. And ever since I was a little kid, I wanted to go to Africa and study giraffes, and eventually I figured out how to make that happen. And the way that I studied giraffes was I was interested in how many different kinds of giraffes there are across Africa, because different giraffes in different parts of Africa have different spot patterns, as giraffe aficionados have seen, I'm sure. Some giraffes have spots that are sort of shaped like maple leaves, and those are the Maasai giraffes that live in southern Kenya and Tanzania. And some giraffes have sort of round reddish spots that are connected by white lines called reticulations, and those are called the reticulated giraffes. And there are giraffes in West Africa and Southern Africa that all have somewhat different spot patterns. And so scientists over the years that they've been studying giraffes, for like the last 100 years, have hypothesized that there's different species of giraffes. Eventually people concluded that there was only one species of giraffe, because the different looking types of giraffes, if you put them together in a zoo enclosure, will mate with each other and produce babies. But I wanted to use genetics to see the population structure of giraffes across Africa, and whether they were all really intermating with each other like they would be if there was just one species, or if the different spot patterns actually reflected genetic differences in the giraffes. And so I worked with a group of colleagues to gather genetic samples from across Africa. And in a genetics lab, we analyzed the DNA of the giraffes, and we found that there are actually several different types of giraffes in Africa, not just the one type that people thought there were. They're probably different species. That research has been followed up by other researchers who have done more extensive geographic investigation of the giraffes, and they pretty much found our same pattern. And they've proposed that there are 4 different types of giraffes. It's still controversial how many giraffes there are. Officially, just the one is still recognized, but everybody knows that now with the genetic findings that there's definitely more than one species of giraffe, and how many types there are is sort of a nerdy taxonomy thing that the giraffe experts of the world are still trying to sort out. But we know there's more than one. And we know that that's important for conservation, because if you lose populations of giraffes in West Africa or in parts of East Africa, you're losing vital parts of the giraffe lineage. They're not replaceable. So the giraffes in different parts of Africa are not the same. You can't just, you could take giraffes from Southern Africa and put them in West Africa, but they're a different thing. And you've lost a unique part of giraffes if you lose giraffes from any part of Africa. So that's the conservation importance of them. So I've been working with my colleagues for the last several years to try and put together giraffe conservation plans. We've formed, under the International Union for the Conservation of Nature, a giraffe specialist group. We're called the GOSG, Giraffe and Okapi Specialist Group. So we've gone out and we've assessed what the population numbers of giraffes across Africa are. And this can all be found on, if you type in IUCN giraffes, you'll find the report. And the IUCN runs the red list, which is the official endangered species list. And previously to the work that my colleagues and I have done, giraffes were considered not endangered. But over the last several years, giraffes as an overall group are now considered vulnerable, and different types of giraffes some are identified as critically endangered, such as the West African giraffe. So that's sort of where my research has had practical application for the conservation of the giraffes, is showing that there's definitely probably different species of giraffes, that some of them are very endangered, and now there are several people working to conserve those giraffes. And that's been a real revolution in giraffe conservation, because people weren't that concerned about them 20 years ago. But now we know that there are far fewer than we thought, and their populations are vulnerable, just like many large African mammals are. There are thought to be between 500 and 400,000 elephants in Africa. There are less than 100,000 giraffes. So their giraffes are much more endangered than people thought that they were.
Now, where within the IUCN, what are the measurements by which they will declare something endangered or threatened, or are there triggers that have to be hit? Is there a uniform code
Yes,
for that?
absolutely. There's a whole, that's a great question. There's a whole protocol for how you assess the population number of giraffes. And the way that the red list works is that there are specialist groups for many, many different types of organisms. There's elephant specialist groups, there's orchid specialist groups, there's shark specialist groups, and the specialist group it's all volunteer, so it's a team of scientists and conservationists and experts in the species or the group of species. And then what they do is they gather all of the available information, all of the scientific reports, all the scientific papers that I've mentioned, the distribution of the animals, and then they put them together. And there are I haven't committed to memory the specific protocol. It's very elaborate, but it's a
I'm
very
sure, yeah.
involved process. And the process is done every few years because it's a very involved process.
Sure.
So you'll see press releases go out at least once a year with changes in the status of species. And even though people might think that we know a great deal about just about an animal in the world, there's still vast amounts we don't know about even the most popular animals, like giraffes and elephants. Just recently, there's been resolution to a long-term controversy about how many African elephant species there are. We know from genetics that there are that the elephants that live in the rainforests of Africa and the elephants that live in the savannas are two different species. There's a forest elephant and a savanna elephant. And for a long time, there was widespread disagreement about whether elephants should just be considered one species or two species. And that's very important for conservation planning, especially for monitoring and trying to stop the ivory trade. And
Definitely.
Recently, the elephant group has pulled together and recognized that there are two different species. So the point that I'm getting to is that you can imagine if we don't know, if there's a vast amounts we don't know about even the most popular animals like giraffes and elephants, there are millions of species of insects, there are hundreds of thousands of species of plants, there are thousands of species of vertebrates, fish, reptiles, birds, mammals, that we know very, very little about. And if you are interested in the red list, I would encourage people to go to the IUCN red list website and look through it. You'll find that a lot of species aren't even assessed, and that's not because they're not important. It's because we don't know enough information to assess them.
We use the red list quite often on the show. Anytime we reference a species or get real specific information, we use it pretty much every single time. Looks like Rob is on the stream with us. He's got a question for you. Rob would like to know, what do you consider the most pressing threats to giraffes?
I would consider the most pressing threat is raising meaningful awareness about their conservation. As I said, I've been involved in giraffe conservation for the last 20 years. When my colleagues who I formed the giraffe specialist group with came together, first came together in the early 2000s, giraffes were considered uh, of least concern on the red list. And so what we realized was that giraffe numbers were much lower than they were assumed to be. And so getting that knowledge out to the world and sustaining that knowledge that giraffes need a lot of conservation attention, I think is the first conservation action, because without support from people, um, by their awareness, ultimately giraffes will slip into extinction. So I think that telling stories, the kind of work that you guys are doing with your shows, the kind of work that we can talk about later that I'm doing with my colleagues in education and conservation education, I think, and zoos are coming together with the wild giraffe conservation world to try and spread the message that giraffes are endangered. I think that's probably the most important cultural thing that we need to do. On the ground, it's the usual suspects: habitat destruction and conflict with human needs. The population of Africa is growing. And just as the population has grown in other parts of the world, wildlife is losing their spaces as it's converted to farms and cities and roadways. So really, maintaining enough habitat for a sustainable population of giraffes, I think, is probably the most pressing conservation need on the ground. The long term, our species being aware of the giraffe's plight and engaging with wanting to conserve them, I think is the most pressing conservation problem. So
That's such an interesting point. Creating more space for wildlife. I assume you've heard of the half Earth theory. I mean,
yes,
is there any practical way that we can go about merging where we live, where wildlife lives? On the show last week, we were live from the field and we did a hike, and I was talking about, at least from my point of view, the idea that the term bush to me can be tied in almost with the indigenous, at least in this area, the indigenous Pomo concept of there is no distinguishing between wild space and the home. Everything was seen as just simply where you live. Do you think an attitude shift is what's needed to really get people invested in, like here where we are in Sonoma County, people are afraid of mountain lions or coyotes,
yes,
and they're just part of the landscape. They're supposed to be here. And how do we get people to turn and celebrate that?
yes, I think that that's absolutely true, Alex, that we need to start seeing ourselves as part of nature and nature as part of our environments. Um, Here in California, I'm here in Southern California, you're in Northern California. We're in a biodiversity hotspot. We're in the area of highest biodiversity in North America, the highest number of unique plant and animal species. And we are the most populated part of North America, the most highest population density. And so we ourselves need to find a way to live with our biodiversity. So I think that one of the real challenges for conservation awareness, conservation education, is being sensitive to the fact that people, especially in Africa, who live with these species that people around the world love, giraffes and lions and elephants, they have a lot of challenges, just as we do here in North America. And I think that awareness is what is going to be needed ultimately for successful conservation. How we invent that is our challenge. I think it's, along with climate change, it's probably our most pressing challenge.
Yeah.
And there's not really a toolkit for it. I think we're confronting it heads on. I'm 50 years old. I'm approximately 25 years older than you are, and your generation, I think, is really going to be the ones who are going to make the decisions about how much of the wildlife and the habitat survives. And I think having the perspective of we need to include the space for the animals and the plants in our planning for how we build our cities and how we build our farms is really going to be essential.
I
One
think that's
trend that, go ahead.
I think this ties into Pam's question. She asks, how do we get people to care about giraffes? And, I mean, it's everything we've just been hitting on. So that kind of, if I could piggyback off Pam a little bit, the people that you encountered in Africa, how do they view giraffes? I mean, I think a lot of people out here, at least in America, probably assume that every African city just has animals crawling all over it, and that's not the case. So there's bound to be situations where people maybe haven't really encountered giraffes, but in general, what was their attitude toward the giraffe?
Well, I think it's very variable because just as in North America, there's urban population and there's a rural population, and the urban population is just as cosmopolitan, just as knowledgeable about wildlife, and the kids love wildlife just as kids do anywhere else, and
Right.
they learn about wildlife primarily from television. People who live around giraffes, frequently they are not going into the protected areas because it's very expensive to do so. And, um, one of the emerging conservation issues, I guess, challenges is to, you know, it's the local people in Africa who are going to ultimately decide how much of this wildlife survives because it's primarily their wildlife. There's a global community that loves giraffes and loves elephants, and I think that we need to work two fronts. We need to work with kids in Africa to help them resolve their conservation challenges and to spread conservation knowledge. And I'm involved with a project called Celebrating Africa's Giants, which is an initiative of the Wild Nature Institute by Derek Lee and Monica Bond and their colleagues in Tanzania. And they have the world's largest giraffe research program going on in Tanzania. They're studying the ecology of the Maasai giraffes. And that for the last several years, they have been working with the research team of both American scientists and Tanzanian scientists to really understand how the Maasai giraffe populations are doing there. And a really important part of that is to get to Pam's question, is the conservation education. And that's the end of things that I've been involved with. And Celebrating Africa's Giants is a program that uses giraffes, elephants, and rhinos to help teachers in the areas around Tarangire National Park and other protected areas in Tanzania use giraffes to teach language arts, math, visual arts,
That's really cool.
and science. When you think about wildlife, you think about science, you think about biology, but these animals can be used to teach many things. And so, working with our Tanzanian colleagues, we've developed a curriculum and a whole library of materials. And you can find all this at africasgiants.org if you're interested in looking at it. The materials are in both Swahili and in English. And we have a great team of educators, of Tanzanian educators who go to schools and work with teachers in the long term to try and develop basically conservation love for the giraffes. And this program has reached upwards of 25,000 kids in Tanzania. We'll talk, maybe we can talk about Mongabay Kids in a little bit, but Mongabay Kids basically evolved out of our project to try and also spread Celebrating Africa's Giants to a worldwide audience and go beyond just giraffes and elephants, but other species. But let me try and get back to Pam's point. So, and to your question about what do people think about giraffes? I think it's variable. If you have giraffes that are eating your crops, then they're a pest. Just as a mountain lion killing a goat or a cow in California is a pest to the person who has that cow or a
these
goat.
problems transplant all around the world.
Exactly. Human-wildlife conflict, to get to the earlier question about what the biggest problems with giraffes are, I think it's habitat destruction, but habitat destruction also grades into human-wildlife conflict, which is just a term for when human needs and people needs, or excuse me, when human needs and animal needs collide with each other. So, so building long-term awareness, appreciation for these animals. Kids are not going to protect something unless they know and love it. Giraffes have the advantage of being one of the superstars that kids in Africa love, that kids all over the world love. And so I think that having that magnetism gives them a lot of ability to, if we can find ways to save giraffes and elephants and lions, then those are umbrella species, which means that they represent a lot of other species in their habitat. And if you can protect these species in their habitats, you can protect the insects and the plants and the other species around. So to sort of bring that back around, We have this education program going, celebrating Africa's giants. It was designed with Tanzanians. We need to be very careful that we're not imposing our views and saying, you have to save these animals, because really they're the ones who decide whether they save the animals or not.
Exactly. Yeah.
For animals like giraffes and elephants, I think there are real international conservation constituencies that people really care about these animals. And there are groups like the Wild Nature Institute that have conservation fans that they serve in Europe and North America, as well as in Africa. And sort of building those bridges between kids all over the world to find solutions to save animals, I think is a real conservation need, a real conservation action that anybody who's interested in these species can help build. And so the vehicle that I'm working on here from the United States that has some international reach is Mongabay Kids, which is the section of mongabay.com for young readers. And mongabay.com, I don't know if you guys have talked with people from Mongabay on your show in the past.
We haven't had a chance to interview anybody from Mongabay, but we do a segment called Headlines at the beginning where we cover this week in conservation. And Mongabay, whether they realize it or not, is our supplier for all the news that we bring to the audience.
That's great. Mongabay is the New York Times, the Washington Post of environmental news. They're really Mongabay was founded by a guy named Rhett Butler, who was interested in saving rainforests. And in 1999, he wrote a book about rainforests, and then it evolved into a news website. And now it's one of the most important environmental news sites in the world. And if anybody is interested in a daily dose of conservation news, wildlife news, Mongabay is a great place to go. And there had been a kids section of it in the past. Along with my colleague Megan Strauss, who's a fellow giraffe biologist, and with Rhett, we've just recently rebooted Mongabay Kids, and we're going to be focusing on plants and animals. We have science activities, we have art activities. We have one of our premier features is called Field Trip, which is a interview and immersive photographic journey that we take each week with a scientist or an artist or someone else who's doing conservationist to show kids what people are doing in the wild to help protect their favorite plants and animals. We're growing the site. We have a feedback button on it if people have other features that they would like to see on Mongabay Kids. That's so Mongabay Kids celebrating Africa's giants. This is a real attempt by a team of us to build meaningful conservation engagement to try and bring appreciation for giraffe. And we're inventing it as we go along. We're sort of inventing the plane as we fly it. And there is a community of conservation educators. Alex, you're on the front line of this as well with your mammals show and the environmental work that you've done through the California State Parks and working at, in the accredited zoos. I think that this is a huge team sport. Conservation is a team sport. And really anybody who wants to be a conservationist for an animal they love or a plant that they love, I think the best thing they can do is try and connect with an organization that is doing work that they believe in the field or in their local area. One of the real challenges, to get Pam's question about how do we raise awareness of giraffes that will help save them? Well, a lot of us who love giraffes live thousands of miles away from Africa. And some people will not have an opportunity to go to Africa. They'll see giraffes in a zoo or, they'll read books about them. But if they want to help save giraffes, they can too by telling their friends about giraffes and telling them about giraffe conservation. We live in a media-saturated world. We live in a world that's where people follow their favorite celebrities, where people follow their favorite sports teams, where people follow their favorite technology products when there's a new iPhone released, or watch TikTok and YouTube videos.
Right, it's amazing.
But animals like giraffes and elephants and lions, really, we need to figure out how to keep attention focused on them, and they have millions of people who love them around the world, but we need to find ways to really keep sustained conservation focus on these animals and their habitats. And I think it's shows like what you're doing here with Misguided and the Mammals Network, that and Mongabay Kids, and Celebrating Africa's Giants. I think it's really we're sort of in a really interesting phase where we're going to need these education programs, and we're going to need to figure out how to fund them.
Now, at the
Which is
core of what you've built, you've got two wonderful mascots to kind of cheer all this on. Could you elaborate on those two a little bit?
Sure. Thanks for bringing that up. So
Yeah.
Mongabay Kids is hosted by two characters, Doug Beetle, who is a dung beetle, and Sophia Seba, who is a Seba tree. And we deliberately picked an insect and a tree because insects are the little things that run the world. Without insects, we would not have any functioning food chains on land. And without plants, we would not have a habitable planet for most species anyway, because plants help create our atmosphere with oxygen. They and very importantly, they photosynthesize and produce, the base of our food chain. So plants and insects are not widely recognized in the conservation world, or some people like insects a lot, and we all encounter plants every day, but there's scientifically proven studies showing that there's really a lack of plant awareness. Plants are invisible to people. The scientists have shown people pictures of animals or a picture of a lion in a savanna, and people say, oh, it's a lion, and they can instantly recognize the animals, but they don't pay any attention to the trees or the grass or the bushes. And so the plant conservation community in particular has a huge conservation challenge in that, people don't see plants, and so people don't care about plants in the way that plants need to be cared about. So what we've tried to do with Doug Beetle and Sophia Seba is to provide a fun way to help bring attention to these groups. And I think the most fun way that we have for people to learn about Doug Beetle and Sophia Seba is a series of comics on our site. Megan Strauss, my co-editor, is also an artist, and she has drawn the adventures of Sophia Seba. And then we have a wonderful colleague named Kayla Heron, who is a superstar picture book artist, and I worked with her to create the adventures of Doug Beetle. So I would encourage anybody who's interested in dung beetles and dung beetle natural history and Seba trees to check out the comics.
I think the whole Doug Beetle thing is fantastic. Both are, but just Doug Beetle in particular is hilarious to me. I think well done on that one.
Well, thank you, Alex. We hope to have many more adventures of Doug Beetle. Maybe someday Doug Beetle can come visit your show.
We'll get an animated version. We have him sit down on the bench here. And
that would be great. I'm happy to do it.
I was guiding once, a young girl, probably about 8 years old, and we're driving along, and she points to a tree down the road and says, "That's my favorite kind of tree." And it was a buckeye tree. And so I said to her, "Oh, that's great. Do you know what kind of tree that is?" Expecting her to say something like buckeye. And she looked at me and said, "It's Aesculus californica."
Oh,
and I was
great.
floored that this 8-year-old knew the scientific name of a tree. That was so awesome.
We have a future conservation leader there, and we really do need them, especially
totally. I had a bunch of stickers from the Monterey Bay Aquarium in my kit, so I gave her a bunch and was like, "You need to keep going with this, man. We need people that can study plants and make them cool and accessible to everybody." Well done.
That's terrific. There are groups out there. I don't want to sound like there's nobody working on plant conservation, because there's groups of really dedicated people out there. Botanical gardens are wonderful places that if people have a botanical garden in their community, I hope that they go visit it. There's plant education communities within the botanical gardens, within natural history museums. There's groups like the California Native Plant Society, which are dedicated to the conserving plants in their local areas. And so I'm a biologist by training and a giraffe obsessive, but I recognize that plants are really important. There would be no giraffes without plants, so go plants.
I was just about to ask. So famously, everybody knows giraffes eat acacia, but to kind of piggyback off the plant idea, are there any other particular plants that are prime things that they'll go to eat, or it seem to enjoy more
That's a
than
great
others?
question. Giraffes have been recorded eating hundreds of species of plants. So
Definitely.
acacias are the most well known, but there are many different types of acacias within their environments in Africa. And there are also other types of trees that they eat as well. And I will admit that I have memorized the exact diets of giraffes, but people have looked at that in depth, and there is a whole scientific literature that people could look at if they want to know the specifics, the specific menus that giraffes are eating. But they have been recorded eating dozens, if not hundreds, of different plants within their environment. So
That'd be fun research. I feel like it'd be challenging research to try to record because it'd just be a ton of field work out in the hot sun all the time.
there is, and there are many people who have dedicated many years to studying giraffes, and it's really interesting because I talked about how little giraffe conservation had been developed until recent years. There's also been a revolution in our understanding of giraffe social behavior. Um, People just, and we are still learning. And Monica Bond from the Wild Nature Institute has just recently completed her doctorate, and she's been looking at the social networks of giraffes. And what she's been finding, and other people have been finding in other parts of Africa as well, is that giraffes sort of have friends, especially female giraffes, have groups of friends that they hang out with preferentially compared to other groups of giraffes. And giraffes do not have an obvious um, rigid social structure like elephants do. Elephants have matriarchal groups that are led by a female, and when young male elephants reach a certain age, they get kicked out of the matriarchal group of elephants, and then they'll either go hang out with other male elephants or go off on their own. Giraffes have a really confusing looking social system where giraffes of all sexes and ages will hang out with each other, and scientists are still teasing out the subtleties of that. But what we know now, because of the work of Monica and other of our colleagues, is that they do have friends that they hang out with. So they're not all that different from people in that way. That
So
they have.
I know we can't hear Jeff right now because the mics are all turned toward this side. But earlier I wasn't wrong then when I said they were kind of the original hippie, right? They live in big social groups, free love, lots of grasses involved, co-parenting style, right? That seems to kind of hit the nail on the head.
Yes, giraffe communes. Yes, giraffes live in communes.
Giraffe hippie commune.
The 60s would have been a lot less fun without what giraffes taught us, I guess. Yes.
um, so I was curious a little about what we know of the history of giraffes, because I've read a little that suggests giraffes at one point lived all the way up to the border of the Mediterranean Ocean. Well, a little because of some cave art that has some depictions of giraffes in Morocco. Can you talk at all about where Africa, of course, has changed with time? Do we
Sure.
know deep in time how long what we think of as the giraffe has existed? Maybe how it's moved around the continent a little bit?
It's a great question, Alex, and it's a question that I think needs a lot more research attention. But I can tell you sort of the outlines of what we know. So, a really interesting thing is that the Sahara Desert, which we all recognize as the largest desert in the world now and takes up a huge part of the African continent, was not there like 5,000 years ago. If you had been in Africa 5,000 years ago, a lot of that area was savanna. And the rock paintings that you're talking about that are found in the desert areas of, I believe, in Tunisia and Morocco, and I'm
Right.
sure other parts of Africa,
Yeah.
there are rock paintings not just of giraffes, but of elephants and of hippos and crocodiles and lions. So we know that the whole savanna ecosystem, that we now sort of think of the iconic one from South Africa and East Africa, um, actually existed in North Africa as well, where the Sahara is. And then obviously as the desert developed and the savanna habitat was lost, all those animals disappeared from that area as well. In terms of the evolution of the modern giraffe, it's really an interesting question. And we actually don't know that much about it. You would think that an animal like a giraffe would have a pretty rich fossil record, but it's actually the exact opposite. There's only little bits and pieces. There's some teeth and there's little pieces of their ossicones, of their horns, but there's not a great giraffe fossil record. And the reason for that is two things. One is that they live in a tropical environment where things decay really quickly. And if anybody's watched a nature documentary, as soon as a big animal dies, there's an entire ecosystem dedicated to eating that animal up until there's none of it left.
That's incredible. So there's
Starting with
just
the
nothing.
lions and the hyenas, and then the vultures and the jackals, and then all the carrion beetles, and then the bacteria do all the cleanup work. So these animals have been cleaned out of their ecosystems when they die and return to the earth. So the modern giraffe has been around for a couple of million years, we think, based on the fossil record. There were a couple of what are called sister species, which were similar giraffes to the living giraffe. Some of them were taller, some of them had longer ossicones. We know that from the few neck bones and the ossicones that we found.
Interesting to picture.
Yes, but relative to some other types of animals, giraffes do not have a great fossil record. So if there's some aspiring paleontologists out there who want to know, who are interested in giraffes, that might be a really interesting area of research for you to look at.
And as far as extant cousins, the okapi is kind of it.
Yes, so the okapi is the only other living giraffid. There was a third branch of the giraffid lineage called the civethere, which was a animal that sort of was okapi-like. It was bigger than the okapi, but I believe that the last ones died out sometime during the Pleistocene, within the last several tens of thousands of years. So there's really not a great fossil record of them either, and we don't know a lot about the civetheres, but the okapis are still with us.
On this, Pam asks, are they part of the camelid family?
Giraffes are related to camels in that they are both artiodactyls, which are the hoofed mammals, but giraffes are their own group, and their closest relatives that we know of are actually, that's a question that people are still trying to figure out. The groups that are closest to giraffes are the deer, the pronghorn antelope, and possibly the caprids, the goat family. And I will admit that I have not looked into this, and giraffe science has advanced so much that some of what I'm saying may be out of date. So I apologize if that's if what I'm saying is out of. But my recollection, of my most recent looking at it, is that it's thought that deer and pronghorn antelope may be the most closely related to the giraffids.
So again, I know we can't hear Jeff, but Jeff, we're doing a show from what, Wyoming, Grand Canyon, somewhere out there?
Sure.
He said, sure.
I'm like 30-second delay, so.
Oh, that's right. He's hearing a delay too.
Yeah.
I have always thought that's so cool that pronghorn is somehow connected to giraffes. I just would love to be able to peel back the layers of time and see that with more detail.
It is very cool. Yes, the pronghorns are kind of weirdos like the giraffids are. They're sort of floating off by themselves without a lot of with mystery of exactly how they fall into the artiodactyl lineage. So there's a lot of work to be done there, and I'm sure that people are looking at it and maybe have answered some of our questions in ways that I'm not familiar with. But I would encourage anybody to get in touch with us through Mongabay Kids if you are interested in that question, and maybe we can write an article or
and
set
on
us
that
knowledge.
note, I guess just to recap here, because we're getting close to time, Mongabay Kids is brand new. It's only about a week old now, right?
Exactly, yes. So we've just launched.
And it's free. It's free. There's no subscription attached to it.
Accessible 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, completely free. There's for educators. There's lesson plans there. There's readers. We're reaching out to the plant education community. We really want to do a lot of work with plants. I've talked to you, Alex. We have some plans to work together in the future on some exciting possibilities having to do with elephants. But some of our current features are a plant talk show called Talking to Plants, which is Sophia Seba, our mascot, interviewing different types of plants. Our first episode of Talking to Plants is up. I say episode, it's not animated. We would love to do animation. We would love to do video. Our budgetary constraints don't allow that now, but we have a fun sort of hybrid comic written episode of Talking to Plants about the coastal redwoods. So I would
graphic
encourage
novels
people
are pretty big with kids right now. You guys might be able to save a ton of money and and still make something really cool and useful and awesome for conservation.
Well, thanks for the encouragement, and thanks for having me on. It's been a delight talking to you and your audience.
Yeah, we are absolutely thrilled that you were able to join us and chat about giraffes and plug this wonderful new thing that you've created, Mongabay Kids. We'll try to post, guys, some content so you guys can see that more directly and post some links or such so that way you guys can find it a little bit easier. But as David said, it's mongabay.com, and then you click on the kids link and there you are. So pretty straightforward. David, thank you so much for being on the show with us.
Okay, well, thank you, Alex. It's been wonderful being with you, and I encourage anybody who's interested in giraffes to check out the Wild Nature Institute's webpage. They have a tremendous information about the Maasai giraffe in particular, and Celebrating Africa's Giants has lots of more information, especially for kids, about giraffes, elephants, and rhinos. So, you know, if you're interested in being giraffes, you can be a giraffe conservationist. You don't need a lot of money. You don't need a fancy degree. You just need to care about the animals, and you can find ways to make a significant difference. And that's true of any organism, not just giraffes. But
it starts at home. It starts in your own backyard. That's very well put.
Exactly. And thank you for the work that you do, Alex, on your show.
Well, this is, I think, mostly us just having fun, but it's hopefully a way for, I mean, I was thinking about this when I was setting up for the show today. There is no talk show where, yeah, I mean, celebrities come on and plug the newest movie they're doing. How come we don't have something like that for conservationists to be able to sit down and be like, look, I just started this new kids project and let's chat about it and get excited about it. So hopefully this is the start of something that's
I think
useful.
that you are the answer to your question, Alex. I think inventing
I'm trying to be. I'm having fun with it and thrilled that people like yourself are willing to put up with us and get involved.
Well, I really appreciate the opportunity to talk with you and your audience. Thanks very much.
Thank you, David. We'll let you go for now. Guys, we're going to take you away to a brief break, and then we'll be right back to finish out the show.
To use my skills and training to protect these animals, to protect this land. I'm prepared to give my life. Poachers, they kill elephants, they want the ivory.
We're going to be up against armed men. They will kill anybody standing in their way. The only thing standing in their way will be you.
We started this with 16 women. 240 more women will become rangers in the next 12 months.
I love my elephant like my children.
I'm seeing the most powerful force in nature. That's a woman's instinct to protect.
I will teach you to fight. I will teach you to disappear. I will teach you to use your power. This is my duty. This is my duty. I am a brave one. I am Akashinga. I am Akashinga.
Audio on? Yes. That was pretty great, guys. We did it. We made all the tech work. We didn't live up to our name of misguided. Wow, I had like a terrible migraine before the show, but honestly, I feel awesome right now. That was awesome. David is so wonderful. That was very kind of him to come on and be a guest on the show with us and chat about giraffes. I hope you guys enjoyed that and learned something. I certainly did. Mongabay.com again is where you can go to find his new kids website. It's mongabay.com, and then right up at the top they have all their labels. They have oceans, animals, etc. And then on the far right you'll see kids. Click on that, it'll take you right to it. His characters are absolutely fantastic. They're so cute and fun to follow. Doug Beetle has a cool little top hat and a cane.
Oh my god.
He's like Mr. Peanut, but better in every way. That sounds pretty cool, a graphic novel concept.
I didn't even get to hear that bit because I was like,
Oh, he
all
was-
I
he
heard
was-
was graphic novel, and I was like, what?
What? Graphic novel about wildlife conservation? You were scrambling back there in the dark,
That's fine.
which I just realized we have a light for you.
Oh yeah, that's a thing. Oh my god. I'm alright.
Anyway, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with us, being part of the show. As always, you, the audience, really make this show work and be what it is. Here on set, we're mostly just screwing around and, you know, having some fun. It's a creative outlet for us, and it feels good to be making something that allegedly is productive and helpful. But you at home, by watching this and telling your friends and family about it, getting people on Mammals to actually see this show is incredible. If you're not on Mammals, you're on YouTube or Facebook asking yourself, what the hell is he talking about, Mammals? Mammals is a live streaming platform, just mammals.com. It is really the only place on the whole internet that you'll find live streaming content surrounding just nature and wildlife and conservation, all that. So it's a pretty cool place because you find people from all over the globe in the same little portal sharing what they love most, our natural world. And I think that's abundantly fantastic. This show streams live there on Saturday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you're watching this on YouTube, odds are it's at least 48 hours later. So it's replay, which there's nothing wrong with. I'm pleased that you stopped by on YouTube to check this out. But if you'd like to see it live, if you'd like to interact, and where is it? Is it right here?
Yes.
Comment bar. If you want to be part of the show, asking questions, because that's the fun of live. The audience is literally part of it. You guys get to kind of sit in the host chair with me, or in the guest chair if you like, and be part of the show together. I'm simply the narrative voice with a rich baritone bass, which it was in the show when I Rob had me asked if I would sing a sea shanty. I don't know any, but Whale of a Tale, why not do it? Point is, guys, I'm thrilled you stopped by. I'm thrilled you were part of the program tonight. And I look forward to seeing you next week when we talk to Seacology, which is a conservation NGO out of Berkeley that focuses on island conservation all around the world. So until then, we'll see you next time.